like Veltima, and there's 6 years of university data to prove it. Ask your Syngenta retailer about using Miravis Neo for more yield more often. Based on 2024 Stratus Retailer Efficacy Study. Always read and follow label instructions.
Find out how you and your family can save up to 40% on the meat, produce, and grocery items you use every day by clicking the Clinton Save-A-Lot icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Jay Peterson here from Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton, Farmer City, and Marilla. Find out how Pekin Insurance can give you peace of mind by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
News time is 8 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 7 o'clock newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and brought to you by Connexus, providing fiber internet to Clinton. Learn more at DeWittDailyNews.com. Leadership for the city of Lincoln, or for the city of Clinton, rather, is diving in headfirst to evaluate its strategic plan, and part of that is making sure the city code is easier to understand. Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers has been appreciative of the effort to provide better clarity, not just for his officers, but for the community.
Again, while it has garnished some public attention, nothing real earth-shattering there. More so, as much as anything of changing things, it's probably more so of making things more clear and more cut and dried, more clear in terms of like vehicle storage, okay? Vehicle storage or accumulation of rubbish or garbage, defining kind of what that is. And Seth, the thing of it is, and the topic that I have to continually have with not only members of the public, but with our own staff and our own leadership, is that as opposed to popular belief, this is not a revenue generating issue within the city. What we're dealing with are kind of those extremes.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier the grass, okay, mm-hmm. The tall grass. We don't come around with a ruler and see if your grass is 8 1/4 inches tall. Where we apply that is these places that have not been maintained, not been mowed at all. Sometimes it's an abandoned property or a vacant property or a property that's gone into foreclosure. And
the city recently hired a new code enforcement officer, and Chief Flowers indicates he is starting to get a feel for the community and is doing a good job working with the community to get some properties cleaned up.
That is part of that is another topic under the police department's portion of the strategic plan, and that is, it kind of falls between the police department and the city administrator in terms of code enforcement and enhancing that program. And we have made some headway there. We've got a little ways to go yet, but with the hiring of Rick Christman, with the retirement or resignation of part-time officer Larry Wooling last fall, in the latter part of winter, we replaced him with Rick Christman, who's kind of up and running and gone through some training and whatnot, and really just now kind of getting out there independently and kind of getting comfortable in his position. So that was certainly a goal within that aspect of the strategic plan. Another major aspect of that was review and amendment of some codes within our code book.
According to Chief Flowers, the city is truly after the extreme cases of neglect.
Certain, as opposed to popular belief, this is not a revenue generating issue within the city. What we're dealing with are kind of those extremes.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier the grass, okay, mm-hmm. The tall grass. We don't come around with a ruler and see if your grass is 8 1/4 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
Where we apply that is these places that have not been maintained, not been mowed at all. Sometimes it's an abandoned property or a vacant property or a property that's gone into foreclosure. And while oftentimes we get some pushback from that, shall we say, offender or violator, what the public doesn't hear are the multiple phone calls that myself or our office fields from neighbors and people in the area of, hey, have you seen this property? And, this needs, there's a vehicle out there that's got trees growing up from underneath it and, a tarp over the top of it and this and that. It's just unsightly in the neighborhood. When we live in town, we expect us to be a good neighbor. And quite frankly, it is the city's obligation. It's their choice and to a degree their obligation to set forth some general guidelines and expectations of property maintenance. With Mayor Michelossi and City Administrator Harris coming on, we're kind of all on the same board here. We're kind of all on this. Pulling in the same direction that, we do have some areas that need to be cleaned up and we need to be more proactive in that. And we're doing so.
Chief Flowers reiterates his department's stance is they are seeking compliance over issuing citations and fines. The Farmer City Council has declined a solar proposal for Farmer City. At its meeting earlier this week, the council declined the proposal after hearing from individuals in the community it would impact.
What this conversation is, hey, here's where this developer's interested in looking at putting in solar development. Council, what's your guys' take on that? And we simply just had a discussion. Each member kind of had their own reasons of why they did not support it ultimately. And we had some public testimony that, and I've never had a round of applause at a city council meeting before after a discussion. So that was kind of interesting in a good way. It was,
the town supported what was decided on, huh?
Yeah. There was a couple that really would have been impacted by this, just by the location. And there was another individual who had a business, and so they voiced their concerns. And
that's city manager Taylor Baxter, who explains any proposed development within 1.5 miles of city limits must get approval from the municipality before the project can go to the county board for approval.
There was a developer who was interested in a piece of land outside of Farmer City. It was about 1 mile, 1.5 miles-ish. And the county actually has ordinances, because it wouldn't be within the city of Farmer City's city limits, like I just said. So the county has certain rules and regulations that these solar developers need to get before they come to the county to get approval, or just talking about it and submitting that permit. So it's kind of on a case-by-case basis, because there's going to be, maybe one eventually that, there's no growth that's going to happen that way. So the exact same thing we were talking about in Clinton with solar and all this stuff when I was there too, is you got to kind of look at that comprehensive plan and what's the long-term vision of the city. And for this location, they felt like it was not a good spot.
Many communities are very closed off to the idea of solar development, but Baxter is hopeful in Farmer City they would analyze each proposal on an individualized basis.
Certain council members, it's going to be a no every time. But I think it would not be very wise of us to just make a blanket statement of just no all the time. Because like I said, if there's not a real growth opportunity, or because there are things like a community benefit agreement, and this is something that these solar developers do, is they want to be able to help the community that they're going to be impacting, and there's real benefits to that. And if we're just going to say blanket no all the time, and there's a parcel of land that makes sense, and I think it'd be wise for us to look at it on a case-by-case basis. But that's the beauty of the city council, and they get to decide all of that, and I just get direction on how to proceed.
Thanks to the CEJA Act in Illinois, Baxter indicates it is possible for a company to still build in a given area, even if the community turns them down, depending on the willingness to pursue its case in the court system. News time is 16 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. The DeWitt and Piatt County Farm Bureaus have been looking for a new Ag in the Classroom coordinator for some time, and the search is now over. Pam Chambers stepped into the role that is, in March, and told regional radio on the Noon Farm Show Wednesday, after retiring after 30 years of teaching, she was in search of new ways to get back into the classroom and still have an impact on local youth.
Funny story. I just was trying to enjoy retirement. I've retired from the classroom, and I spent a year or so just being retired and doing some sub in the local schools to kind of scratch that itch. But I'm not feeling very fulfilled, kind of feeling bored and purposeless. And I was scrolling on Facebook one day and saw the ad that was put out for this supposed position. And I never dreamed it would be for me, but I pursued it and it just happened. And I'm so grateful and excited about it. Yeah, so I've been a teacher my whole career, and I've been in the classroom every year for my whole career. I started a preschool at a young age and then moved to public school and taught in Champaign for 20 years. Really enjoyed that. And taught in Iowa for 10. And I just spent a lot of time in different classrooms in different locations, kind of just trying to influence children best I can. That's my calling. We moved to Monticello, Illinois. My husband got a job in Decatur area, and I lived in Champaign, and that was a good middle of the road place for us. And I landed right in the middle of farmland, and I love living there, and that's what brought us there.
Chambers has always had a passion for kids and feels students do not learn enough about agriculture in the common curriculum, even though she does not have an ag background.
Well, I do have a lot of passion for watching kids learn, mostly because, like I said, it's fulfilling. It fulfills me. And to see light bulbs go on and understandings happen are just at the heart of, what it's all about. But it's kind of funny. Over the years, I've seen a real lack of understanding with children in the agriculture world. I don't want to say Salem has been watered down, but it definitely doesn't feature agriculture aspects. And it's really sad to see that kids don't understand the farm to table, experience that they live every day, and they're living among it, in this beautiful area filled with agriculture. So I'm so great to have a chance to kind of bring some new understandings for them. At first I had to do some heavy onboarding to understand what I to do and to understand topics I was to cover. And then I needed to get to know people. I needed to get to know teachers and principals. I spent a lot of time getting to know staff members, and I'm so grateful I had a chance to sub prior to this because I was able to know a lot of teachers and now welcomed into their classrooms. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and then just trying to hook in with different events like the Earth Day event here in DeWitt County, and spending some time at Ag at the Museum event, which was wonderful to be a part of that with our intern Davis, and just enjoying that planning of the Summer Ag Institute behind the scenes to get to know some of the teachers and welcome that into that training so that they could get trained in this area like I needed to be.
As a Chicago native, Chambers did not grow up with experiences in agriculture. As she progressed through the onboarding process, she leaned on Sarah Caper, the Champaign County Ag in the Classroom coordinator.
You talk to me, you'd probably think I have a farming background, or maybe you would think that I have farmland and my husband is a farmer. But truth be told, I've just been cultivating children over the years, and I grew up in the city of Chicago, and I only had dreams and aspirations of being in the farmland. I loved having Sarah Caper in my classroom when I taught in Champaign. She was the Ag in the Classroom teacher that would come into my class 2-3 times a year, and she would just be a wealth of knowledge and information and leave me resources. As she left, I would feel more equipped. And so people were always trying to get Sarah into their classes, and I used to think, wow, I like her, and I would love to do that one day. And here I am, and so I hope I can do that for young teachers now and older teachers, just to get in their classrooms and encourage them in this area and provide them with resources to enhance their dry curriculum and make it better for them.
Chambers encourages finding the DeWitt Pyatt Ag in the Classroom Facebook page to keep up with the latest. The National Weather Service in Lincoln is collaborating with the University of Illinois Extension to enhance awareness of when dust storms may pose a risk to central Illinois. Dust storms have been on the rise in the last 2 to 3 years in Illinois, highlighted by a deadly pileup on Interstate 55 south of Springfield in 2023. Ed Shimon with the National Weather Service in Lincoln explains he reached out to Reagan Tibbs, the commercial ag educator at the U of I Extension in Logan County, to get a better idea of field conditions. He believes this information could be the missing piece to predicting dust storms.
Sure, yeah, and we reached out to him as well. Due to the dust storm frequency coming up here that's happened in the last several years, we wanted to get an indication of how can we maybe work better with the farming community and get information from what the status of the fields are, because that's our biggest question mark. I mean, we know the winds are going to pick up and that it's been dry, but the status of the fields is the wild card that we don't know when we're trying to issue and get ahead of these dust storms. And Reagan provided us some information about how the fields get into a certain condition that may be conducive for dust storms. And possibly, it's really difficult to get a scope of what the field's conditions are, but any way we can get that information from the extension, or if he has any kind of avenues to gather that kind of information, he's willing to provide us with it as much as we can when we get dust storm kind of conditions in the April, May, possibly even early June timeframes.
Shimon indicates they are specifically looking to learn about soil conditions. While they can predict things like heat and wind, field conditions can be varying depending how recently it rained or how much watering a field has received. Dry soil can easily be picked up by the wind, causing dangerous dust storms.
He at least provided us with knowledge on how long these conditions can set up once we observe fields being tilled and prepared for growing season. These soil conditions can be really powdery for a week or 10 days sometimes after farmers have been active in the field preparing their fields. So just knowing that, how much time frame can be included after an event of getting that soil into more of a powdery condition, and so we know we have to be diligent, with any kind of high winds, and that means 30 to 40, generally 40 mile an hour sustained winds. Then we really have to get some dust products out there and be ready for potentially, having those visibility restrictions.
Shimon indicates the growing number of widespread dust events has led him to believe this is due to changes in soil types, as well as a practice called drain tiling, which allows soil to dry out quicker than it ever has.
Sure, yeah, and Reagan provided us some insights too on the soil types east of the Illinois River and north of I-70. There's just like that triangle that he pointed out of the soil types, and drain tiles are going in. That area are very effective. Just the way that soil is set up, drain tiles take that moisture and remove it from flowing and causing channels of problems in the fields. So that makes the soil be able to dry out quicker right at the surface and create additional dry return of those powdery conditions. So it's part of soil type, and also the introduction of much more widespread drain tiling, which means draining the moisture from the soil to the deeper levels where the roots are quickly. We're just always open to avenues of how we can work with farmers. I know farmers, don't want to always tell everything they're doing, it's just not in their wheelhouse and they don't have the time. But any way that, we can get a more fluent flow of information of how those fields are to the Weather Service. I mean, we are an agency for safety, and these conditions, if we know about, the status of the soils as quickly as possible in those May timeframes, then we can, get products out and potentially keep people off the road and save lives.
When dust storms do appear in the area, it's important to stay indoors, close windows and doors, and especially stay off the roads during low visibility conditions. News time is 26 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Thursday. We've got plenty more to wrap things up coming up on the morning show.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. This is what we do every day. We listen to you, give you options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that's knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full-service dealer. See us at bombchevybuick.com right from the start.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
News time is 27 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Thursday. The new Illinois FFA Major State Officer Team has been in office for a month now. Coben Tate is the vice president and hails from Western Illinois' Illini West chapter.
Kind of just the memories I had wearing the jacket that said Illini West on it is definitely my first national convention. I was a nervous wreck because I was a freshman going to the national convention, and you don't normally see that, but I was roomed with 3 other guys from Illini West, and they really brought me out of my shell and kind of kickstarted my journey in this organization. And then I get to go and see these sessions for the first time. I'm thinking, FFA is such a big organization. How did I not know about this my entire life until my freshman year? So that was kind of one of my first memories in this blue jacket. Another memory I have with this chapter is definitely leadership camp. We maybe didn't wear our jackets at leadership camp, but as an Illini West FFA member there, I was so happy to be able to represent my chapter because I had an awesome group that you spend your entire week with camp at, and they're complete strangers from across the state. And being able to make those connections with those members. And I still talk to almost all of my group members today. And I've seen all of them here at convention and struck up a conversation with them. And we just reminisce about our awesome memories at camp, like conquering the challenge course, which is a bunch of obstacles, or going through different leadership practices and trust falls and everything in between.
Prior to becoming Illinois' FFA vice president, Tate was serving as the Section 11 president. At one time, Illinois was home to over 400 round and multi-sided barns, but only about 65 still stand today. Indiana author John Hanau has written a book called Around Illinois, the Round and Multi-Sided Barn in the Prairie State.
In the book, I have a catalog of all the barns, and there is a GPS coordinate. If you want to look it up, you can use that GPS coordinate to find that location of the barn if you're interested.
The 208-page self-published book is available through blurb.com. News is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and brought to you by Connexus, providing fiber internet to Clinton. Learn more at DeWittDailyNews.com. Get news anytime at DeWitt Daily News.